Hello, I am here to help with some of the stitches for the Expression Fiber Arts Skyfather pattern that I designed. And this is a request that was done by a person who bought the pattern and said that several people needed help with these stitches as well. So I'm going ahead and doing a quick little stitch tutorial for those. So what I've done is I've worked up a little bit of a swatch here. I've just done about 16 stitches here to show you how to do the more difficult stitches in the pattern. So the first one is going to be the row with the linked slip stitches. So in that, you're going to, of course, chain one, and it says to work a half double crochet two. So you're just going to do two regular half double crochets, nothing special about that. But then when you get to the part where it says do the linked slip stitches, a linked slip stitch is going to be where you're going to be slip stitching into each of these stitches across, but you're going to be linking it to the stitch before. And this is going to create that ridge that's going to create the border of your scarf on the front here. So to do a linked slip stitch, the first thing we have to do is find the stitch we just worked into. So in this case, we've got our half double crochet that we worked. There's the stitch that it was worked into. And so I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch, grab my yarn, and pull through. And I've got two loops on my hook now. Then I'm going to go into the next stitch that's not worked, insert my hook, grab my yarn, and perform a slip stitch. So then I just slip it through everything that was on the hook. Slip stitch is done. The next thing I do is I go into this stitch that we just worked into, where our yarn is coming out, insert our hook, grab yarn, pull through. We'll have two loops on our hook. We have linked it to this previous stitch. Then we go into the next stitch, yarn over, and slip stitch through everything. And then we just do that again. Insert into the same stitch we just worked into, yarn over, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through everything. And you just keep repeating that all the way across until you need to work your final two half double crochets. So you'll just do linked slip stitch, linked slip stitch. And if I turn it over here, we can see how it creates that little double V ridge that's going along here. Once I've finished with my row with the linked slip stitches, we can see we've got these ridges here. The next row is going to talk about doing just a half double crochet into this very first stitch. And then you're going to half double crochet in the back loop only of each of these stitches across, and then a half double crochet in the final one. Now with the linked slip stitch, sometimes it can be a bit difficult to tell where the back loop is. So I just want to kind of point that out. So if you look at the front, we've got these V's going along the side here. Well, if we turn it to where we see the top of the stitches, we've got those top V's. Those are going to be where we look for our back loop and front loop. And so the back loop is just going to be that one that's farthest away from us. So when we work into the next stitch, when we do our half double crochet, we will yarn over, turn it, find that back loop, and then just work our half double crochet into that. So then I yarn over, turn it to look at the top, find the next stitch, and then just work into that back loop. And all this does is really just make that linked slip stitch row really pop out and create that nice three-dimensional textured border along the bottom. All right, all I've done now is work my way to the row where we're going to start doing some front post stitches. And so I kind of want to show you how to do that for this establishment row. So with crochet, we know it doesn't quite line up perfectly up and down, but we can do our best to get it to line up the way that we need it to. So for instance, when it talks about doing a single crochet in this first stitch, I'll do that. And then if I look directly below it, I can see that the half double crochet that it lines up with is this one right here. So then when it says to front post double crochet around the next two half double crochets that are two rows below, this first one counts as my first, and then this is the second one. So since this is my second stitch, I'm going to work my front post double crochet around this second one. And that's how I can help keep my count. So I do that, and then I work a front post double crochet around this next one right here. And then, because I want to keep the stitch count the same, I go ahead and skip the 2 single crochets that were behind it. So if I want to find those, I just look up here at the tops of the stitches, and I just skip the next 2 V's that are right here, because those are counted as these stitches. So by skipping those 2, the next stitch I work will be a single crochet into this next one. And then I work however many single crochets it tells me in my pattern. In this case, let's just say I've worked 3. That means that the next time it says to work any kind of front post stitch that's directly below, I can count, okay, so I worked around this one. So then I want to work 1, 2, 3. That lines up with this 3rd stitch. So the next one I would work around is this 4th one, because that's the 4th stitch that I'm about to make. So if I need to do a front post double crochet directly below, I can do that. And that will help keep everything nice and lined up. And then I just skip the stitch that's behind it there, work a single into the next one, and so on. Now, if it says something along the lines of you're going to work a front post double crochet 2 rows below and 1 stitch to the right, then we're going to have to do something a little bit different. So for instance, I've done 1 stitch here, so there's 1 single crochet. So let me do 2 single crochets, 3 single crochets. And now I'm to the stitch where it says, okay, you're going to work a front post double crochet 2 rows below and 1 stitch to the right. So because I worked 3 single crochets, I have a 4th stitch that I'm about to make. So normally I would go around the 1, 2, 3, 4th half double crochet here. But because it tells me to work 2 stitches below and 1 stitch to the right, I'm actually going to move 1 stitch to the right here, and that's going to be where I work my front post double crochet. So I will yarn over, go around that one, pull up my loop, and complete my front post double crochet. What that'll do is it keeps the top of our stitch in that 4th stitch position where we need it to be, but then it moves the bottom over to the right and creates this left leaning stitch to create that angle to establish our cable pattern there. I'll still go ahead and look here and see that I skipped this stitch here, and I'll work my remaining single crochets how I need to. So on the establishment row for our cables, that's how we do it. We just basically try to look down below, keep a count of how many posts are in between to help us line these up. Okay, what's great about this pattern is that once you have your established front post stitches in your scarf, you're going to no longer need to worry about trying to locate stitches on the bottom. Every front post stitch here going forward is going to be around one of these already established post stitch pathways we're going to follow. So the first thing we're going to do is work our border. So it's just going to be a single crochet, and then we have these 2 established front post double crochets. So we're just going to work our front post double crochets around those. So when it says to single and then do 2 front post doubles, that's all you're doing. We of course still are going to skip the single crochets that are behind it and then work our next stitches starting in the next one. All right. Then one of the stitches that it's going to talk to you about is being able to do a front post V stitch. So the front post V stitch is just going to be where we kind of split one of these front post stitches so that it goes from 1 stitch to 2, and so we can have 2 to work in later. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So we will work however many stitches it says, and then this is going to be worked across the next 3 stitches because we're going to be doing a front post stitch to count for this one. Then we'll do a single crochet here in this center stitch that lines up with this post stitch below. Then we'll finish it with a 3rd stitch. That's going to be another front post stitch. So the first front post stitch is just going to be wrapped around this one, just like normal. So we'll yarn over, go around the post of this post stitch, complete our front post double crochet. Now because it's to the right here, it gives it that right lean. So that's the right lean of our V. Then when we skip the one behind it, it takes us to this center stitch. So we just work a single crochet into that center stitch. And that creates the space in between our V. Then we're going to finish out by making our third and final part of the V stitch, and that's going to be doing a front post stitch around the same post that we did earlier. So we're going to yarn over, and then going around this post stitch, we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. And then we will skip the stitch that's behind it, and then just continue with our single crochets as normal to the next one. And then that creates that V. We've got our front post stitch here, center single crochet, front post stitch here, and voila, you got a front post V stitch. The next stitch I want to show is just for the Skyfather scarf. And so if you're doing the Earth Mother one, you can go ahead and kind of skip this part and go on to the next one, which is the last stitch I'm going to show. But for the Skyfather one, you're going to be doing a front post double crochet two together anytime those zigzags join in. So what you're going to do is work your way across to whatever stitch it tells you to. So in this case, it's going to be, for me, these, I think 4 stitches. Yeah, 4 stitches. Then we're going to be joining these 2 front post double crochets as one stitch. So it's only going to count for this one single crochet that's next to here. So to do that, what we're going to do is just establish our first front post double crochet by yarning over, going around the post of our first one, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, but then do not complete this stitch yet. Instead, we will now establish the next one here. We will yarn over, go around the post of our second stitch that we're joining together, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. What that does is it creates the start of 2 front post double crochets, so you'll have 3 loops on your hook. One for this one for this one, and one that was just the active one from the previous stitch. Once you do that, you're then able to yarn over and pull through all 3, and that joins those 2 front post double crochets into one stitch. And then because that joins these 2 together as one stitch, we skip one stitch behind it and then continue working the rest of the pattern. For this next stitch, this is only applicable to the Earth Mother because it is not present in the Skyfather pattern, and that is the front post cluster. Now the front post cluster is basically just going to be a bunch of incompleted front post double crochets that are then joined together around this post stitch. So it's going to be a lot of loops on your hook, so just be prepared for that. But what you'll do is you're going to go ahead and yarn over, go around the post of your stitch here, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Then you repeat that again around the same post stitch. So we'll yarn over, go around the same post we worked around, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we'll do that one more time. We're going to yarn over, go around this post stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. We will now have these 4 loops on our hook, the 3 for our front post double crochets and our active loop here. Then all we do is join it all together by yarning over and pulling through all 4. And that creates that little cluster at the tips of these front post stems. Now, because this only counts as one stitch, we only skip one single crochet behind it. So only skip 1, not 3. Then after that, we go ahead and work a single into the next stitch, and then we're able to continue working in pattern. Now when we come back on the wrong side to work this across with our single crochets, one thing we need to make sure of is when we work into the cluster, we are working only into one of those stitches. So if we look at the top here, we can see that the tops of the stitches join in this linked chain. That is no different when we get to the cluster. So if you kind of look at the top, you can see exactly where you need to insert your hook. And so here we would insert it underneath these two of the V, and that is how we would work into the top of this cluster. So I hope that that's helpful for those of you working on the Sky Father or the Earth Mother scarf patterns from Expression Fiber Arts. If you liked this video and found it very helpful, please feel free to share it with anybody else who has bought the pattern and has posted any kind of need for help for it. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.